Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, it seems that we are live now. So I think that most of us are already here. So let's just start then. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. For those who are not here, and also for you, dear guests, please remember that a recorded version of this webinar will be available. We are going to have a great event featuring of some knowledge about supply chain visibility, statistics, a poll, and a very special event to which you will also have the opportunity to subscribe to during the webinar. So please, of course, stay tuned. This is our first webinar this year, and this time we will go for a deep dive on how to master supply chain visibility. Before I introduce myself, I would like to mention one thing. In the top right corner, you can scan my QR code. This is my LinkedIn QR code. So if you would like to network up with me, just send over your connection request. That code will be visible throughout the few of the next slides. And as well for all of our co-hosts and guests, the QR codes will be also visible. So we will be also to get some more relationships as well. My name is Maciej Lukas. I am a marketing manager at Skyrise.tech. I am also a business developer, a smart city enthusiast, believing in the culture of shared economy. On a daily basis, I make sure that Skyrise.tech's story is heard and told. Today, I am facilitating this great event so it runs smoothly. And as for the webinar itself, the webinar is a continuation of the topics covered in Skyrise.tech's report on location tracking devices and their influence on supply chain visibility published in December 2020. For those who did not have the opportunity to have a look into the report, please do not go to our website just now. The link to the report will be, of course, sent to you afterwards, after the event, just directly to your email boxes. During the webinar, we will go over 3 really cool case studies that show how various tracking technologies affect supply chain visibility and business. Today, within the upcoming 55 minutes, you will get lots of knowledge, especially on technologies, QR codes, RFID, and IoT and others. Real-life case studies and examples from which you learn how to handle particular cases, some pro tips on how to successfully implement tracking solutions, and a unique opportunity to use Skyrise.tech's services. And speaking of Skyrise.tech, it's worth mentioning that Skyrise.tech is a software development and consultancy company in the area of technology for logistics and supply chain management. We help companies find, integrate, and create technologies, solutions that help them address their challenges in the most effective ways. To handle our customers' challenges, we cooperate with partners to obtain goals. And I'm just thrilled to say that few of them are here with us today to share their stories and their perspective on supply chain visibility. And ladies and gentlemen, this is my honor to introduce you to Lori Erik Lehikoinen, the Senior Vice President of Global Sales at Logmore. Hi, Eric. It's really great to see you here and have you here with us.
Hi, Maciej. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So if you guys think that the entire supply chain might be actually in your smartphone, well, this is Logmore. Logmore is on a mission to bring granular data to your pocket. And our second guest today is Christian Meinert, the Sales Director and Retail and Logistics at Lyngsoe Systems. He has the comprehensive logistic background within sales and at PostNord and production at GLS, combined with background serving as a former consultant and advisor for European partners specialized in outsourcing. So, Christian, really great to have you here with us today. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Very pleased to partake.
Yeah, Lyngsoe Systems is a world leader in logistics solutions across the customer supply chain, offering real-time transparency, traceability, and data capture. And last but not least, Bertrand calling us today from Switzerland. He is the co-founder of Kizy, which is a solution to track and monitor shipments around the world that is cost efficient and has a long autonomy. Bertrand, it's an honor that you are here today with us. It's a pleasure.
Hi, Maciej. Thank you for having me here today.
And today I have a wonderful company as well from Skyrise.tech. And ladies and gentlemen, please just throw a very warm hi, at least in the chat, in the top right corner, to Natalia Pięta, the co-author of our ebooks about supply chain trends and technologies. Natalia is Skyrise.tech's innovation and digitalization consultant and a co-host, which will introduce you to the topic of supply chain visibility and the technologies behind that. And yeah, Natalia, I think that it's over then to you now. I think this is the proper time to introduce the agenda of our today's webinar.
Hi, I just had to unmute myself a little bit. Yeah, it's really nice to be here today. I hope we can share some interesting insights and knowledge with you. I actually am convinced that it will happen today. Let me share my presentation. First of all, I am working on innovation and digitalization in supply chain management, in logistics, and in healthcare as well. I am really excited with trends. I am really excited with what the new technologies are enabling us to do. And let me start with agenda. So first of all, I prepared some short presentation to show you what are we going to talk about, and some introduction how to master this supply chain visibility with several tips. Then we have case studies. Maciek already said who are our guests. First of all, Logmore will tell us more about how sensors and QR codes can be used in food chain. Then Lyngsoe Systems will tell us a little bit more about RFID and barcodes in e-commerce. And then Kizy Tracking will tell us more about using tracking devices, utilizing cellular connections in transportation across Asia and Europe. And then we'll follow with a short discussion and Q&A session. So also during this presentations, case studies, please leave your questions in the question tab in the top right corner of your screen. So if you have some questions or maybe some challenges to share, please write it there and we'll discuss it at the end.
Yeah, precisely. And speaking of which, about the challenges, right? We hope that you will get inspired during our today's session, and you will definitely learn that one solution does not fit all. And this is why during this webinar, you have a unique opportunity to book a free consultation session with our experts. No strings attached to it. Please keep in mind that our offer stands only in March. And just in a second, you will be seeing a button, and clicking a button will just lead you to a page when you can just subscribe for a consultation session with our experts.
Yeah.
And before we just go into a deeper dive into supply chain visibility, I just want to tell you guys, please engage, be active, ask questions. Leave your comments in the questions tab in the top right corner. Try not to duplicate the questions, as there is a voting system that actually can allow you to vote for the questions that are already there. So just use it if you feel that the question also fits your needs. Yeah, that's basically it. I'm just throwing that button for you so you can just have it. So if you would like to use our free consultation session, just push the button to book your free session now. And so, Natalia, it is over to you now. I think it would be great to start with a simple definition of what supply chain visibility is from your perspective.
Okay, so this is actually what I want to start with. If we're going today to talk today about the supply chain visibility, probably it's good to know what we are talking about. So the supply chain visibility is all about companies' ability to monitor a given object, and I will just describe in a minute what's the object. So its position and state as it moves through the value chain, and especially usually companies are interested in this downstream movement towards the end customer. But it doesn't have to be downstream, it can be also upstream. So what is an object in this definition? So based on what you do, what company you are working for, this object can be, for example, a transport or a shipment or a product or an order. Or, for example, an order is for the companies that are very customer-centric. A part, a component, a batch of raw material. So based on the company you work for, you want to track different types of objects along this value chain. On the other hand, supply chain visibility is not only about monitoring, knowing what's happening to those objects, but also monitoring how the resources are used. So it is worth to monitor what's happening with assets, people, employees, and also to the money and information flows. According to Alexis Bateman from MIT, we can talk about 3 levels of supply chain visibility. The first one is the most basic. So this is in-transit transparency. When the shipment, the cargo leaves the door of your venue, be it a warehouse or a production site, it starts this journey toward the end customer. And this transparency between your production site, your warehouse, and the final customer, this is this in-transit transparency companies are fighting for, just to, for example, boost the customer experience. Then you have this, I would say, more elaborate supply chain visibility. It's an end-to-end transparency within tier 1. So you know what's happening 1 step upstream or 2 steps upstream and 2 or 1 step downstream. So between your supplier and your direct customer, maybe a little bit further. And then there is also this holistic visibility. So this is from raw material to product end of life. You're really knowing what's the product all about and how it finishes its life, and it even covers, for example, reverse logistics, because probably you've already heard that the circular economy and zero waste and so on are very important trends, and actually the trash can become kind of a raw material for you once again. Okay, and this is the moment when I want to ask you a question. There is this question in the poll tab in the top right corner of your screen. How much visibility of what is happening in the supply chain does actually your company have right now? Please answer the question. I hope like 30-40 seconds will be enough to do that.
Yes, and if you are still looking for the poll in this webinar tool, just have a look at this top right corner over here. There is the tab for polls. And over there, you can just leave your vote, and let's see what will be the results. We just have just few at the moment, but let's just wait for a few more. Okay, but as people vote, I can clearly see, Natalia, that the limited visibility into 1 or 2 steps in the upstream and downstream supply chain is actually leading currently. And I know that you have some good statistics actually to comment it, and
yes.
Let's see how it actually fits the current research in the market.
Yes, so if you have this limited insight into what's happening, you're actually in quite a wide company, because 77% of all the production companies that were studied by Geodesy in 2017 had this reduced visibility into their supply chain. So either they had only the knowledge what's happening on the production side, or maybe had some visibility to step 1 or 2. And so, as you can see, this is a big topic, but it's not introduced that efficiently yet in the business. And about like 1 in 5 companies had some more extended visibility in into 3 or 4 steps of the supply chain, and only 6% had full visibility. And why we are talking about this? Because the same study showed that 1 in 4 of companies with this full supply chain visibility had an EBIT margin over 25%. So this means they were really profitable. And many studies show that actually having this visibility, being able to take decisions based on the data makes sense from the financial perspective. But this is usually also quite an investment. So the full visibility and transparency is kind of a big goal, and it's worth obtaining, but you can already start small and already see benefits. And how to master the supply chain visibility for your company. Actually, there are 5 steps that we should take. First of all, you should establish clear goals for what you want to obtain with these visibility solutions. Sketch a big picture, talk to all of the stakeholders that can be interested, and also on many levels of the company, because the management has different strategical goals they want to fulfill, and also guys in the first line on the very ground level have great insight into where money is leaking from your supply chain quite often. And there are many questions across also different departments. Customer success people and customer support probably spend lots of time answering questions to your customers, and maybe the customers could be self-servicing. And there are some disruptions that could be prevented, and so on and so on. We will see the potential benefits when we come to the case studies today. And for example, when we did this exercise with our big pharma customer, it occurred that they identified 8 cases, like business cases, for introducing this supply chain visibility solution, and they had to decide which was most important, just to start in a very informed manner. Then, if you have these goals, you have to understand what data do you actually need to address them, and where to store them, where to match it with different data, just to create insights, not only raw data. And it is very important not to be very imaginative with it. Just try to define the basic data that already will give you some insight. Because if you dream very, very big from the very beginning, then of course it's very difficult to reach this point. Then you already know what do you want to do, what problems do you want to solve. You know the data that you need. Then you should check if this data is already available somewhere. So it is quite usually it is skipped. So not enough effort is put into researching if this data is available somewhere. It can be in some other parts of your company, in some systems that you as a supply chain manager or your team or operations team don't use. But for example, other parts of your company have this data. And also you should reach out to your direct partners, because they sometimes are really eager to share some insight into what's happening at their place, especially if they also see some value for themselves. And when you already check this data, then you can pick the right technology to collect your own data. So you already know that some data can be harvested from existing systems. Then you can see which actually you have to gather yourself. And depending on the scope, on the area in which you need this data, there are different data capturing and identification technologies. First two, so the technologies that utilize the line of sight and are meant to identify objects in very short, like not distance areas, are optical scanning, so QR codes, barcodes, and also image recognition technologies and short-range wireless. So NFC, RFID, Bluetooth, you've probably heard of it. It's very useful if you want to know what's happening in the environment that you control. Of course, we can discuss later if also in other environments, but that would be the big picture. Then there is Wi-Fi, which can cover up to 100 meters. So this is also quite useful if you have your own venues. Then there are wide area networks utilizing cellular technologies, and this is something you know from your mobile phones. 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, it's something you use probably every day. Then there is this low power wide area networks meant to be used by IoT devices. This is also a very fast developing technologies, but not so widespread yet as the, for example, cellular technologies. And then you have also this global coverage, satellite networks, which can also be used to track, identify, monitor these objects you care about when you operate globally. And last but not least, so you already have your goals established and have this big picture of what can be obtained or should be obtained. Then you have this data picked, you know where to take this data from. Okay, and this is the last part, the last puzzle is to define the scope of collaboration necessary to execute this vision. And this is very important to start building partnerships and also find allies in your own company, but also in your partners' companies. And this is something that we also observe that is a little bit underestimated maybe right now, that if you want to build this visibility, you really have to break silos. So you really have to build trust, and only with this you can build this wide view and also benefit on many levels. Okay, and a final tip: aim high, start small. So of course, if you want to build allies effectively and if you want to get this broad scope effectively, you have to first show how people and how companies, and especially your company, can actually benefit from this visibility. So find a place where you can easily do a POC or where the value can be brought really fast. Probably it can be even brought in several months. So it can be done fast. And just start doing this.
Yeah, so Natalia, thank you very much for that introduction into supply chain visibility. That was pretty interesting, and all that perspective on those five steps, how to master it. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are figuring out how to start small, or if you already started and you are stuck, do not hesitate to take advantage of a free hour of consultation session I was mentioning just earlier on with Skyrise.tech's experts. And perhaps, Natalia, we could just throw a little light on the recent case study we have been working on with our customer, just to show the perspective of what actually can be delivered here.
Okay, yeah. So as I mentioned several slides ago, recently we have been working, and we are still working with a big pharmaceutical company. And as I said, we help them actually from the step 1 to the step 5 already. So from having this internal interviews and workshops with internal stakeholders, trying to understand what are the business cases that can be addressed with visibility solutions, through identifying what data is already accessible but just needs to be retrieved from different systems, to also researching the ways that they can gather extra data themselves. So I cannot share more yet because it's still a work in progress, but I can already say that really companies can benefit from such solutions. And we will also show it today with the case studies of our guests.
Yeah.
So probably, yeah, it's the moment.
So if you are still considering whether to use our session, I'm just dropping you the link just again. And from now on, I think it's the proper time just to move along to our guest speakers. So we are really featuring really cool case studies, thinking of generally like to start small. You can already use some of the products, existing solutions out there in the market. So this is why we are having here today Christian, Bertrand, and Eric. So Eric, the floor is yours. And let's have a look at your really cool case study which you have done with Coop, right?
That's great. Thanks, Monsieur. Thanks, Natalia, for setting the stage. I think it's nice to continue from here. Let me share my screen over here. You guys are seeing this okay? I can't see you.
Yes,
so
it is just loading. We already see Logmore. Yeah, so I
Great.
think it's perfect. Eric.
So, hello, everyone. My name is Eric Quinnen, and I'm from Logmore. So what do we really try to do with Logmore? We want to really contribute at least a tiny bit to reduce the global waste that happens when you're moving goods from A to B. And as Natalia mentioned over there, collaboration is the key with multiple different partners, and that's what we also are doing with multiple different providers to ensure, let's say, smoother operations and that we're able to reduce waste. How do we see this world of logistics? We see a lot of granular data, and we have seen a lot of our customers not to utilize their data pools. As Natalia already mentioned, that one of the steps is that you have to first take a look, what do you really have internally? And then start working from there. And we need to try to figure out a way together how we can bundle this information together so you can act. You can get insights so you're able to make smarter decisions. Let me take a very clear example, hopefully at least from your personal lives, right? Think about the fact that how you're utilizing mobile banks. You have an app, you're able to go with the computer and see how much money you have spent on a monthly basis. You can see how much money comes in and money goes out. But how about if you would every single time that you're making a purchase, you would get an A4 like this. Are you able to see this? The paper that I have in my hand. Monsieur, is everybody able to see?
Yeah, sorry, I just needed to unmute myself. I think that I will just expand your camera so it's a little bit more visible. So yeah, we see a banana, right?
Exactly. Think about if you would have to collect all of the purchases that you make on a monthly basis. So let's say for month of February, if you want to know how much money you have spent, every purchase you spent, let's say a banana, 50 cents, a Coca-Cola, you went out to eat, you get an A4 document. It would be very tough to bundle that information together and calculate how much you have spent, right? And this is what we are seeing with multiple of our customers in the world of logistics. There is a lot of data, but it's messy, it's chaotic. And that's where we want to help. We want to stop wasting data. We want to enable data utilization so you can act. And how do we really do this? We try to basically turn this story into narrative that you're able to analyze a lot of historical data from all of your journeys, all of your shipments. We don't do real time, but we're able to bundle a lot of shipments together so you can start seeing patterns. For instance, over here, if you see that you have more red for month of May than green, then that means that most of your shipments in May have had something going on. You need to take a deeper dive into that. And that's where we want to contribute. We want to bundle information to present macro level visibility so you're able to act. Now you may ask, how is this possible? We always need an enabler, right? That was the step 4 that Natalia presented, right? Technology to gather data that you don't have already in your database. So we have this hardware innovation, dynamic that you're able to see over here. This enables the data collection, the collection of temperature, humidity, shocks, tilt, and light. They do the work. Then we present that in a nice and neat platform so you can act. Beautiful things about our technology is that the world has built the infrastructure around it. Everybody has a phone, right? You only need a phone to be able to scan these wherever you are, and then the data goes instantaneously to the cloud, where you can see this from here, wherever you are. If you have shipments in Sweden, they go all the way to Japan, and you're sitting in Frankfurt, you see this at your office or from your home. But without further ado, I would like to present a brief case that we're working with Coop. Many of you may know them. They're a relatively large supermarket chain here in the Nordics. And what we have started to do with them is that from 3 of the main warehouses and from 1 transshipment warehouse, we are monitoring the shipments all the way to the stores. We have been able to increase the shipment data coverage by 900%, and we have been able to reduce the processing time per logger by 90%. But now let me draw how this is actually being done. I have to get a little creative over here. Are you able to see this?
Yes, yes, Eric, we do. So
very good.
Let's go ahead.
So the case of Coop, remember, I'm going to write it down over here. We're talking still about Coop. What is happening with them and with a lot of other customers of ours? We have this type of situation. We have a warehouse, or it can be a factory where you're producing the goods. And then you have a customer. It can be internal or external customer. In this case with Coop, it's their stores. And these walls represent that there is no visibility, as we have heard already today. There is a lack of visibility of what happens when goods are being moved from A to B. So that means that there is a big question mark. And bit by bit, the world of IoT, new technologies are enabling that we're able to provide more visibility. But how do we do this with Coop? We're providing loads of very, very small guardians. That's what we call them, guardians of cargo, guardians of information. In other words, loggers. The more we have those spread around the world between A and B, we're able to start gathering information. The information that we're bundling together into Coop ERP/warehouse management systems. And now what, you may ask? What they want to do, and what they have been doing, is that they want to do micro-level decisions. So is one shipment okay or not okay? At the one shipment level, that's, let's say, more granular. But when we bundle this information together, we're able to get macro-level visibility, getting more towards that holistic visibility that Natalia was talking about. And that macro-level visibility can be whatever, like how many percentage of all your shipments there's something wrong. There's too big of a temperature deviation that may cause waste, or that the end customer is not accepting the products. You may have, in the case of Coop, is that fish is getting deteriorated and it's not usable anymore. So we have to scrap that. We can also analyze that which box provider should you use, and what time of the year, which trucking company you should use, which route you should take. And we enable this by collaborating with others and providing loads of these little guardians into the world. This way, Coop is able to act in a more proactive manner. I hope that this was able to make at least a little sense, and the voice was not lagging too much.
It was a perfect presentation, Eric, so thank you very much for it. I'm really thrilled to actually see how sensors using transit can bring valuable insights for companies in the food industry. So that's really, really interesting. And when you were speaking, we actually got one question, and I would just to go very briefly through it. Sandeep just asked, do I need a QR? I will just start the live answer for it. So the question was, do I need a QR code which needs to be scanned? So I think that it was meant for your general solution, Eric.
Sorry, can you rephrase the question? I didn't really hear.
Yeah, do I need a QR code which needs to be scanned? I think this is a question in terms of generally your solution, because it is basically based on QR codes, right?
Yeah. So it's we provide these like tiny loggers you're able to see hopefully from my camera, and we distribute these. We put these into a box level, pallet level, on a very granular level. So then when people are able to scan them by utilizing their phone, they get the information directly to the cloud.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric, for that answer. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any other questions, just use the questions tab in the top right corner. Just as Sandeep did, you can also place your questions if you have any. And so thank you very much, Eric. And I think this is now the proper time to move along to Christian. Christian, so the floor is yours. We are really excited to see the case study of Lyngsoe Systems.
Thank you very much, Marcy and Natalia. I'm, of course, very excited to partake in this presentation today. I will share my screen, allowing you to see the presentation in full screen. So you should have a good...
Yes, it's here. We see it, Christian, so you can just...
Yeah, thank you very much. As mentioned, Christian Meinhardt from Lyngsoe Systems, headquarters in Denmark. And I'm here to give you some useful insights about radio frequency identification, also known as RFID today, and how that can support your supply chain and create visibility. We heard in the very beginning, Natalia flying us in, telling about some of the problems with the lack of granularity, and we've had Eric also telling us a bit more about how to create visibility between sites. Today, in this presentation, we'll focus a little on how you can actually create even better visibility when you receive goods inbound in your internal processes, and in particular also in your outbound process, and how that can support your daily operation. So again, to Natalia's point in the very beginning, it's oftentimes a problem that you don't have real-time status on your orders. There might be lack of overall visibility that is, of course, also meaning that you'll get additional handling. You might have extra needed customer service, shrinkage, spillage, and also lack of management decision support overall. So to get to a supply chain setup where you get better data, real-time visibility, and at the same time cut cost, in particular variable cost, you need to use technology in a better way. And luckily today we have a radio frequency identification that can support you and your supply chain in this specific setup. So what is RFID? Just to introduce it very briefly, RFID is a small tag. It's a radio-enabled tag that's usually built in or sort of embedded into a barcode. You can then have the barcode on each of your individual items on a pallet. That means that looking at the picture in the middle of the screen here, you'll be able to actually do an automated scan on all of these items simultaneously without even having to move either one of these items on the pallet. And another great thing that RFID offers is that you are able to actually scan and read what's inside a box. So if you have 2 or 5 or 10 shirts hanging inside a carton box as displayed on the right hand side here, you would actually be able to do a scan on each of these individual items without even opening the box. So looking in the upper left hand corner, this is a typical freight label. Many of you today probably know this. It's a sort of a quite typical thermal printed freight label that's used on carton boxes, on pallets, and on shipments in general. And as you can see in the upper left hand corner on the back side of this label, we have a small RFID tag embedded in this freight tag. You can, of course, also have these tags delivered on rolls or in your existing price tags. It's also possible, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen in the bottom lower left corner, it's of course possible to take the RFID tag and your barcode and seal in or embed in a plastic crate, so you can use it again and again. So if you have, say, a roll cage or any other ULD you would like to enable, you would just use a clip-on tag, and then you can reutilize the same tag for many, many years. If you go down to your local H&M store today, you will also see RFID in most of the hang tags in store already, allowing the retailer to do scanning and registering of these items automated. So just a few more words on passive RFID. As you can see in the bottom left side of the screen, you can basically enable anything in your production. It could be a roll cage, a pallet, items on a pallet, a t-shirt or a shirt, as we looked at just before. It could be an envelope, a fire suit, or whatever you're producing. You are able to actually use an RFID tag and get these items automated, handed over in your supply chain. And that means when you are taking either one of these items or a pallet with a lot of items, transporting those items under a gate, you are able to actually retrieve all of these scannings and, of course, push them forward to a central database and display that in an application on top, either your existing ERP or your existing WMS system, or it could even be displayed on a handheld unit. You can, of course, use this both in your internal process, and you can use it also when you're loading, as shown on top of the screen, left-hand side. You can, of course, use this when you're loading trucks and shipping goods outbound, basically. So, to give you a real-life example, we have together with one of our customers, XXL Sports in Norway, which is the leading e-commerce sports garment manufacturer in the Nordics. We've created this very visualized parcel journey where you can see how to do this and how to utilize the technology in a real-life case scenario. So, act number one in our parcel journey, step number one, we have an item, and we are going to apply a label to this item with an RFID tag inside. Let's have a look. Quite a lot of you is probably familiar with this process. This could be an automated process as shown here, or it could be a semi-manual process where you have an employee attaching a label to your parcel or your item. In step two, those produced parcels or items are typically then transported to a sortation area, and in this case, looking at the flow at XXL Sport, they are taking these items and transporting them to a sortation area where we have pallets sorting going on. So basically, they're sorting these items into different routes. So this is the transport section we are following. It arrives, and then we have an employee moving this specific RFID-enabled item to a pallet now. The pallets at the end of the day, or when the pallet is filled, this pallet is moved to the validation station area. And what XXL Sport in this case has done is that they have actually associated the RFID codes with zip codes. So they're going to do an automated scan or an automated registration on each of these individual items on the pallet. Let's have a look at that process. have the pallet now placed under the RFID reader at the AVS station. And as you can see here, we now have an individual scan of all of these 39 items. And we can also see exactly which zip code the items are being transported to. So if we had a sorting mistake or a handling error in the process, we would be able to correct this error right away. So if the 320 item Trondheim Stykgods should not be on this pallet, you would remove the item immediately and do a new registration. When you have finished the registration, the goods are of course transported to an outbound area, probably as you know within your own supply chain, ready for shipment. And you can of course, after preparing these shipments for outbound handover, use the same methodology when you are loading the trucks. So basically, you retrieve a transport document and you then load your truck as shown on the bullet point number 5 in the left-hand corner. You hand over all of these individual items to a third-party transporter, and you are able to register that all of these items, all the loaded pallets, are correctly loaded to the specific truck, and you can then later on in your own supply chain register those when they arrive at the next place. And looking at the right-hand side, just to quote Kurt Nielsen, responsible for the e-commerce within XXL Sport, it costs a lot of money to correct a misdelivered order, even if it's for one of our own stores. Also, it causes great frustrations for our customers, and we can't deliver at the scheduled time. With RFID, we avoid this from happening. And this is, to quote, or following up on Kurt's quote, I think this is probably also in line with some of the challenges you're facing in your supply chain when you are experiencing error or handling errors in particular. You will have a lot of associated cost and unsatisfied customer. And the best way to avoid those mistakes and the cheapest way to handle any error in the supply chain is to avoid it in the first place. Looking at the business case drivers for XXL Sport, they were actually able to reduce complaints with around 50%. They also removed a lot of the handling associated with sorting the goods out to these individual pallets and scanning the items. Now they have automated the scanning. They are saving time per each item they handle, and return on investment for this entire solution was just 1.04 year for XXL Sport. Looking at another company who has been able to accomplish similar or realize a similar very, very interesting business case is Delta Airlines, to whom we've delivered a quite comprehensive RFID solution. Delta had the problem that they actually mis-sorted quite a lot of the bags, and that led to added cost and unsatisfied customers. They then decided to use RFID, as you can see in the picture in the lower left-hand side of the screen. We have an RFID reader under the conveyor reading each of the bags that is being loaded into the plane. And by doing so, they were able to get rid of manual handling associated with scanning. They've automated that, so that meant they could save variable cost. It also meant that they're not doing any sortation mistakes anymore. And for Delta Airlines, that meant that they were able to reduce mishandled or missent bags with 5 to 10%, cut costs in loading operations, and basically they have been able to realize a business case of over 7 years for up to $3 billion US. So seen from those two case examples, it is definitely very clear that it's a very, very good idea to create visibility in your supply chain. And we also recommend that you do use your existing IT infrastructure, change as little as possible, but use this as a supplementary technology. Ensure that you can control your bill of material and reduce your handling errors immediately, and basically automate handover inbound, internally, and outbound. And to follow up on Natalia's excellent presentation in the beginning, the way to go is, of course, to start small, think big, and scale fast.
Thank you very much, Christian, for this presentation. I'm really thrilled and actually to understand and to see that full return on investment can be achieved in such short time, actually, over here. So it's really, really impressive. And it was also great to hear about how automation of recognizing shipments across the big logistics sites can cut time and save money, actually. And ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for Bertrand from Kizy Tracking to also introduce a really great case story about their solution. So Bertrand, the floor is yours now.
Hi, Maciej. Thank you so much. And also, thank you to everyone. Hello, and thank you for having me here. Like Maciej said, I'm co-founder of Kizy, and today I'm going to present your solution and how the companies help solving issue with shipments around the world. I will not come back to the problem that we discussed today extensively and jump directly to the solution that we provide. Basically, we're a solution that provide visibility thanks to a tracker that can be used. The solution is composed out of 3 elements. You have one tracker that our customer put inside the goods. We have one platform that allows our customer to manage the goods. And the most important thing is the API, which is an interface that allows to connect with a third-party systems like a transport management solution or an ERP, for example. Now, when we designed our solution, we chose not to use satellite, so no GPS. We use only cell phone network and Wi-Fi to localize. And this brings a couple of advantages compared to these GPS solutions. The first is that it uses much less energy than existing solution, up to 100 times less energy, so that our system has an autonomy of up to 1 year, whereas similar GPS tracker would have only a couple of days. The other advantage is that it's truly global. It works pretty much anywhere where cell phone network is available. That means also inside buildings and inside containers, and this pretty much in all countries in the world. We designed the tracker to have a credit card format, and there is a reason for that, so that it can be used in postal shipments. So on one side, you can use this also to explore problems in the postal networks, but also to retrieve your tracker once it arrives at the destination. You can use a system called IPRS, International Business Reply Systems, defined by the Universal Postal Union, to send back the tracker for very little money. And finally, it's also a system that is much cheaper than existing GPS solution on the market, between 2 and time cheaper than existing solution that you might find. Now, thanks to this feature, we launched the solution back in 2014, and we can gain different customers in different areas. One of the main areas where our trackers are used is in the postal area, where they're used to investigate issues like misrouting, delays, problem warehouses, or, for example, measuring the quality of the delivery network. Another example, they're used by asset managers, for example, rolling cages manufacturers, to understand where problems arise, where are these missing, and especially how quickly are they going to come back when they're used on the fields. But the most important use case I want to focus on today is about shipment delivery on a larger scales, and particularly focusing on container delivery between Europe and Asia via rail. Transporting containers between Asia and Europe is becoming a challenge, especially in these COVID times, because we have shortage of transporting capacity. And rail, so train transportation, has become a real alternative because it's also cheap and compared to flying the goods, but also pretty fast to deliver. Now, there is one big challenge, and here you can see a couple of routes that are used. The distances of transportation are just huge. And you see here the new Silk Road, the Trans-Siberian roads. These shipments go through countries like Russia, Kazakhstan, Iran, or Turkey. Now, one of the biggest challenge with that is this. The trains, they travel around places where there is nothing for thousands of kilometers. So that basically you have no infrastructure to know what's going on with your shipments. And the only thing that you can find in these places is cell phone network. Now I want to focus on one particular case that illustrates this, and I want to take the example of ProStarLog, which is a major freight forwarder specialized in shipment between Asia and Europe via rail. So they give their services especially between China, Russia, and Europe. And like many freight forwarders, one of their challenges is managing the customers, managing complaints and questions. Customers come to them and ask them, where is my shipment? Why is being delayed? Why has been damaged? Where and when and from whom? And since they don't own the transportation infrastructure, it's difficult for them to have a comprehensive view of what's going on, because each transportation company will have its own system, so that they have to switch all the time and they spend a lot of time managing this. And the second is to offer this visibility to their customer. The customer are requesting end-to-end visibility because they want to know what's going on with their shipments. And since they use different transportation company, it's difficult for them to show the status of their shipments end-to-end. So what we did with them is to create this visibility solution based on Kizy. They put basically our trackers in all the pallets being delivered from Asia to Europe. And here's an example of a shipment that goes from Chengdu to Tilburg in the Netherlands. You can see that the customer can see at any time where the shipment is, no matter where it is actually physically, even in lost places like in the middle of the desert of Kazakhstan. One thing is not only to provide position, but also to provide additional data about these shipments. So as you see, we can provide different additional information like temperature, humidity, or for example, opening detection with light to detect unexpected openings. Now, what does it bring to a freight forwarder to offer more visibility? Well, one of the challenges of the freight forwarders is to be competitive compared to other freight forwarders. If they don't provide additional services, the customer will pretty quickly switch from one to the other based on pricing. So thanks to visibility and long-term visibility and end-to-end visibility with Kizy, ProStarLog could increase its customer retention by more than 20%, turning it in more revenue for them. But the other effect that they observe is a strong reduction of the time managing customer complaint and requests. Like I said, this is something that it's consuming a lot of time of freight forwarders. They need to search for this information. And basically, since they offer now this visibility to their customer will not contact them. They will just look at the data, and if there is really a problem, contact them. So they could reduce by more than 50% this time to manage the customer complaints. So that means with the same team, they can address twice as many customers as before. I want to conclude my presentation saying that by Kizy, we strongly believe that there is no solution that fits all, and that the future of supply chain is going to be to be connected, be a key component of the next industrial revolution that is coming. Now, in order to realize this, the industry needs to find ways to collect valuable data from the largest good flows around the globe in a cost-efficient way and with long autonomy. And this is what we do by Kizy.
Bertrand, thanks for showing how using the trackers actually build the customer trust and loyalty. It is impressive how it translates into retention on a price-sensitive market. That's really, really interesting. So, speaking of the future of supply chain visibility, I think that it's all about the case studies, and we would like to have a short discussion. We also have some questions. So I think that, Natalia, it's over also to you now. Basically, what is the future, and what do you feel that will be happening? Because that starting small, we already know that it's like actually worth to start small and then proceed and actually see what you can get out of it. But how it will look like when in the future? Natalia, you're muted. You're muted again, Natalia.
Okay, it kind of mutes itself. Okay, so first of all, I really believe, like I also agree with, I think we here all agree that this revolution has to happen. So we all, as consumers, also as employees, as business people, we know that information flow is already really amazing and fast and makes us a global community. On the other hand, we have a global economy, and I think during COVID it was more apparent than ever. But on the other hand, these physical flows are still quite difficult to follow, and I would say they are in the long-ended era somehow, and they really need more digitization. And today we've heard different case studies, and we've spoken about different technologies, but I think once again I want to stress that this is also about building cooperation. And like even if we have great information already gathered and technologies, if we don't start to cooperate as people connected with supply chains, then it will not happen. But I also believe, I really believe, and with lots of politics pushing toward this direction, toward this closed cycle economy, we have to know what's happening with what to be able to retrieve the trash as the fuel for the next cycles. So I really believe in that in, I don't know, 3, 5, maybe 7 years, we will see a huge growth in visibility, in understanding and using technologies to fuel economy. And I'm not sure if it was fully answering your question, but I'm also trying to be concise because we're already over the time.
Yeah. Yeah, but still, I think it's worth just to have a very, very short discussion. So I know, Eric, that you also had your feelings about the future, right? And your perspective. So if you just could briefly share your vision.
What we here see at Logmore is that every single item, starting from every single product that you're going to get from a pharmacy, for every single bottle of water, or you're going to have a little piece of oat milk that you're going to purchase from the supermarket, each item will have some type of tracking solution. We're going to go from this big level on a container to pallet level, now to a box level. We're going to go to the product level itself. So within the next 3 years, we're going to be most likely very widely adopted that when consumer goes to the supermarket, they go to the pharmacy, they're going to get the goods. Or before the vaccine is going to be injected into them, like in today's world, the consumer will get the final information about the products. They have full visibility into the shipment, and we're going to have dynamic best before dates, for instance. Because when we're able to control and get true visibility into the temperature levels when you're delivering food, we're able to perhaps even prolong the dates that when you can consume food. And this will be enabled by when we go into a very granular level and directly into the products themselves.
Mm-hmm. Bertrand, if you have any insights over here from your perspective?
Yeah, I share the vision that things are going to be connected and the supply chain are going to be connected. And when I think supply chain is not only the container, is going to be to the item level. So I totally share the vision of Eric. If this is going to happen in the next 3 years, I doubt it, but it's going to happen definitely. because there is a need for that. We observed this also as an example in the car industry. In the car industry, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, almost no car were tracked, and today in the business area, in the business field, almost all vehicles are tracked because it brings value, and it basically needs two things. It brings on one side a reason for creating a business for that. So you need to justify the additional cost with reduction or increasing efficiency. On the other side, you need a technology or technologies that allow to do this. And we see this technology evolving, and we see technologies that allow to address different use cases. Again, I don't think that there is going to be one fits all. There are going to have different technologies that will be able to connect all these items. But I think the most important thing is that these technology will have to be able to talk together. So I think one of the key elements and the key challenges for this solution in the future to make this supply chain transparent will be the ability to be open, the ability to connect with platforms through open standards, through APIs, so that we can get all this data and basically integrate this. And I'll come back to what you said, Natalia, at the beginning. You said, look at what data you already have, them, because most of the time you already have a lot of data, you're just not aware of it. So I totally believe in this, and technology is heading in that direction, and I think the business too.
Christian, and what is your perspective on this?
Well, yeah, definitely. It's not a matter of sort of picking one technology per se. It's in many cases a matter of combining enabling technologies, and a lot of these technologies are not sort of competing against each other. It's more complementary technologies, and whether you're using a logger or using a barcode or using GPS or using RFID, each of these data capture methods has its own place in the supply chain. And the big question is, of course, how do you actually get to a point where you can capture data the most efficient way, make it possible or make it visible, and how do you enable those data quantities the cheapest possible way as well? And then the next question, in following that line of thought, is of course, how do you then react when you're able to gather this information and create useful Power BI reports or other reporting on top? What do you do with it?
I think that the supply chain visibility whole topic is really, really hot. Like, we also received plenty of questions. I think that we can at least try to answer just few of them with a bigger amount of volume. So I already seen, Christian, that you answered in Nadia's question, right? Does the reading always require gates? Or are there other ways to get the information from the RFID tags? And the answer was, could be a handheld reader, right? Yeah. And there is also a question for you, Bertrand, from Stuart Brasnell. How can I protect the Kizy tracker if it is so small when on a container train?
So usually our solution is made to be used within the transportation item. So for example, inside the container, inside the pallets, inside the envelope, or inside the parcel. So there is no specific need to protect it, and the tracker is also pretty resistant, so that it can resist on water splashes or shocks. Now, if you need to install this on the outside for some reason, we also have a kind of battery bank that will extend the autonomy on one side, but will also make it IP67, so completely waterproof. But in reality, one of the advantages of the solution is that it can be used from within the container, so you don't need to specifically protect it.
Thank you very much, Bertrand, for that answer. And there is also a question coming from Muhammad, and I will try to display it over here. Main part of supply chain visibility is order is delivered correctly to customer. What are the ways to verify, validate digital signature, to check the signs is of customer or rider done its fake? Well, I think that it has some spelling errors, but nevertheless, do we capture that question?
Does any of your solutions, guys, also incorporate this digital signature or not? Okay. It seems that you collect this digital signature, Bertrand, or?
So I guess that the question is on proof of delivery. So basically proving that it has been delivered and who received it. So I guess none of our solution do it. Maybe probably the one who is the closest to this is Eric, because probably when you scan, you can also ask for a signature. I don't know if you allow this, but technically it could be possible. On our side, we don't provide any solution to have a proof of delivery. What we can provide is showing when it has been opened, and you can then match this with the destination so that you see if the opening has been correct or has actually been a tampering.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to continue on that topic is we can do the same as what Bertrand mentioned. We have the location of the scan when it reaches the end destination, and we can utilize light sensors to measure that when this has happened. But also, as Bertrand mentioned, that we are actually about to come up with this new solution that you're able to also have the digital signature while you scan that. So that's end of the trick. So this is.
I didn't know it.
Yeah, what I can maybe add that there are ways to, for example, connect this tracking and visibility solutions, and probably there are also some visibility solutions that actually have this also exchange of documents and signatures, some kind of confirmation. So there are such solutions, but the visibility solutions can be also paired with the solutions for digital digital exchange of documents and signing documents. I don't know if the person that was asking the question knows the solutions like, for example, Authentic. So I am not also fully aware how widespread are some certain solutions, but you can check, for example, Authentic, and it can be connected as part of the whole process. It's an extra software, but it's a software dedicated for digital signing of different kind of documents and gathering digital confirmation of things. So this is kind of an extra tip where to search, but of course some more information, if we, for example, set this consultation or meeting, it can be also covered in such a consultation.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as we are already like 50 minutes over schedule, just the last question, because it's really interesting from my perspective, as I'm like looking above into the heaven and into the sky, and seeing actually the Starlinks going round and round. And there is a question for it coming from Marcelo. About the close future, how do you think that Starlink connection could affect the tracker and trace solutions? That's really interesting, because probably the connectivity issues would be solved somehow, right?
Maybe I can take that one,
Yeah,
because
sure.
we made some reflection on that. So GPS is a solution that has satellites that are very far away from the Earth. We speak about 36,000 kilometers, so 1/10 of the distance to the moon. Starlink are low Earth orbit satellites, so in the 400 kilometers. So it changes pretty much the setup. This being said, there is still a challenge to get the signal into the buildings, and even Starlink requires receptors outside. So today, if you look at the internet connectors, you see that they sell also this antenna to receive the signal from inside. How good this is going to work from inside, it's a question mark, and I don't have the answer for that. We have discussion with not only Starlink, but other LEO satellite manufacturers, and to this, there is no like satisfactory answer at the moment. And why this is important is because goods are basically inside buildings and containers most of the time. So it's going to be a game changer, and really interesting game changer, if we can get a satisfactory signal from inside buildings and containers. If they don't, basically it's not going to be much better than a GPS plus any kind of communication technology like GSM or cell phone, whatever.
Yeah, I think just adding to that topic, it is a very, very interesting question also, based on the fact that GPS is a wonderful technology, and it definitely allows you to close quite a lot of loops. But to Bertram's point, when you're going into a building, and typically a lot of production warehouse buildings are sort of concrete buildings, hospitals are multi-storage buildings, etc. You get to a point where you can use GPS up to the entrance point in that building, but then you typically need another technology to actually achieve the right data capture and granularity from that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that we answered most of the questions. Some of them were also written by our guest speakers in a written form. So basically, you will also see them in the recordings. Just as we actually said as well, there is probably no one solution to all of the challenges out there. So just please also remember about our unique offer for this webinar coming from Skyrise.tech as well. So perhaps we can just help you and guide you throughout the world of supply chain visibility, as we already have some knowledge over here in this field, and we also partner up with Kizy, with Logmore, and with Lyngsoe Systems. So here is the last chance to have an opportunity to subscribe throughout this webinar. We will also be able to do it later on following our email. So Bertrand, Eric, Christian, Natalia, thank you very much for having time to attend this event to speak about your really interesting products and your stories. So I think that we'll be hosting another one because there are plenty of interest about this topic of supply visibility. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And your questions are also kind of a fuel for our future topics. So please be prepared that maybe we'll try to answer them in the following webinars. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.